Let me tell you something right now. Something I learned through every heartbreak, every closed door, and every moment I thought God had left the room. He never left. You see, most of us, we pray, we cry, we pour our hearts out, and then nothing. Silence. No signs, no answers, no miracles. No miracles. Just more waiting. And that silence, that's where the devil starts whispering. God ain't listening. You wasting your time. Ain't nothing gonna change. But here's what I know, because I've lived it. God hears you every single time. He may not show up when you want him to, but he is never, ever deaf to your prayers. You might not get an email from heaven or a thunderclap in the sky. You might not see the clouds part or hear a voice from above, but the silence, that's not absence. That's alignment. That's construction. That's God working on a blessing so big, it's taking time to prepare it. Look, man, there were days in my life where I was down to nothing. I'm talking about sleeping in a car, broke, confused, praying with tears running down my face, and I'd say, God, are you even listening? I wasn't just asking for money. I was asking for mercy. And back then, I thought my prayers had just gone up and disappeared like smoke in the wind. But what I didn't realize was that God had heard me the first time I called. He was just setting up everything I needed for when the time was right. You ever order something online and then get mad because it ain't show up the next day? That's how we treat prayer, like it's Amazon Prime. But God ain't in the business of 2-day shipping. He's in the business of divine timing. That package you praying for, it's coming. But it ain't gonna arrive until the address is right, the weather is clear, and the delivery is safe. That's why you gotta trust, not just in the prayer, but in the one you're praying to. And here's the wild part. Sometimes God doesn't speak back because he's already spoken. He told you to be patient. He told you to trust him. And now he's waiting to see if your faith is gonna hold up in the silence. That's the real test. Can you believe even when you don't hear a thing? Some of you right now are in a season of silence, and you're wondering if your prayer bounced off the ceiling. I'm here to tell you, it didn't. God caught it. He wrote it down. He assigned angels to it, and he is moving on it. Just because he's quiet don't mean he's still. God is in motion. He's in your future, setting the table, lining up the opportunity, moving the right people into place, and clearing out what doesn't belong. You just can't see it yet. I promise you this. One day, you're gonna look back on this very moment, the one where you thought he was silent, and you'll realize that's when he was doing his best work. You'll see how every tear was watering your future, how every no was a redirection, how every unanswered prayer was actually a better blessing waiting in disguise. So don't stop now. Keep praying, keep trusting, because even in the silence, God is listening. Let me tell you something about delay. Most people mistake delay for denial, and that's where the enemy starts working on your mind. Just because it ain't happened yet don't mean it ain't happening. See, when you pray and it doesn't show up on your schedule, you start doubting. Doubting God, doubting yourself, doubting the whole process. But what you gotta understand is this. God is not a genie. He's not sitting up there granting wishes with a snap of his fingers. No, he's a strategist. He's deliberate. And he don't just hand out blessings, he builds them. Delay is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's alignment. It's alignment. When I was younger, I used to pray for stuff that I thought I was ready for. I'd say, Lord, bless me with a big opportunity, but I didn't have the discipline to handle it yet. God knew that I didn't. And if he had given it to me too soon, I would have ruined it. Sometimes the delay you're frustrated with is the very thing saving your future. That job you didn't get, that person that walked away, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers, God saw what you couldn't. He knew what would happen if he said yes too soon. You ever try baking a cake and pull it out the oven too early? Looks good on the outside, but when you cut into it, it's raw. That's how some of us are with blessings. We look ready. We talk like we're ready. We post like we're ready. But inside, we're not done yet. And God is not about to serve up something half-baked. He's going to wait until the time is perfect, until the moment is cooked all the way through. And then, boom, you're going to walk right into something that was tailor-made for you. Behind the scenes, God is moving in ways you can't even imagine. While you're stressing over the clock, He's handling connection. He's softening hearts. He's rerouting the traffic of your life to make sure when your prayer shows up, it shows up strong, full, and right on time. You think nothing's happening, but everything's happening. It's just not in your sight yet. See, faith gets easy when things are quick. When the blessing comes fast, anybody can believe. But God ain't interested in quick believers. He's building strong believers. He's developing your patience, your trust, your character. And trust me, when the blessing finally lands, it's going to be so clear why it took the time it did. You're going to see how the delay wasn't to hold you back. It was to set you up. I remember when I was broke and praying for a TV show. Nothing was working. Years passed, and I thought, God, did you forget about me? But what I didn't see was that while I was waiting, God was working. He was lining up the producers, the networks, the audience. So when my time came, I wouldn't just get a moment. I'd get a movement, and that's what happened. He didn't deny me. He delayed me, so I could be ready. You need to hold on to that thought the next time you think God's ignoring you. He's not. He's crafting something special. And if you give up now, you'll never know what was waiting for you on the other side of the wait. Stay in the process. Keep showing up. Keep praying. Keep believing, because your delay is not your denial. Faith don't mean you're never going to feel fear. I think too many people confuse the two. They think if I'm scared, I must not have faith. That's not true. Some of the most powerful steps I ever took in my life, I was shaking while I took them. My knees were knocking, my hands were sweaty, and I was scared out of my mind. But I moved anyway. And that's what real faith is. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is acting in spite of it. Look, if you wait to feel confident before you step out, you're going to miss a whole lot of what God has for you. Because most of the time when God calls you to do something big, something life-changing, it's going to scare you. Why? Because it's bigger than you. It's beyond your comfort zone. It's outside your control. God don't ask you to do easy stuff. He asks you to trust Him with impossible stuff. And when you step out, even while you're trembling, that's when faith becomes real. I remember when I decided to leave my safe little job and chase this comedy dream. I was terrified. I didn't know where I was going to sleep half the time. I didn't have a backup plan. People told me I was crazy, but I had this voice in my spirit saying, go, and I went. Not because I was fearless, but because I had faith that God wouldn't leave me out there alone. And guess what? He didn't. Fear is a feeling. Faith is a choice. You don't have to wait for fear to go away before you choose faith. You just got to make up your mind. I'm not letting fear be the boss of me. Fear will always scream, what if you fail? Faith will whisper, but what if you fly? You got to decide which voice you're going to follow. Now, don't get me wrong. Your fear is not the enemy. It's just a signal. It tells you, hey, you're stepping into something unfamiliar. But faith says good. That means you're growing. You see, the enemy wants you to believe that being scared means you're not strong enough. But God sees your fear and says, step anyway. I got you. You don't need all the answers. You don't need the full blueprint. You just need the next step. Faith is a walk, not a jump. God rarely shows you the whole staircase. He just shows you one step and waits to see if you'll take it. That's the test. That's where growth happens. Right there in that moment when your heart is racing, your mind is doubting, and everything in you wants to turn back. But you take that step anyway. That's where breakthroughs are born. Some of y'all are sitting on dreams, on ideas, on callings, because you're waiting to feel brave. Let me help you. Bravery don't come before obedience. It comes after. You don't become courageous by waiting. You become courageous by moving through fear, trusting that God's going to catch you if you fall, or better yet, teach you how to fly. I've learned this over and over again. The blessing don't come to those who wait for the fear to pass. It comes to those who trust God enough to move while the fear is still present. You think people who start businesses, leave toxic relationships, pursue their calling, they're not scared. Ew, man, they're terrified. But they do it anyway, and that's why they're free. So the next time fear rises up in you, don't run from it. Walk right through it with your faith in front. Because God never asked you to be perfect. He just asked you to believe. And when you move with faith, even in fear, that's when heaven opens the door. And if you take that step today, I promise you, God will meet you right there. Sometimes the hardest thing to accept is when God says no, especially when you've been praying with everything you've got. Your heart, your soul, your tears, your faith, and you just knew it was supposed to happen. But it didn't. The door stayed closed. The person walked away. The deal fell through. And that no hit you like a punch in the gut. It makes you question everything. You start wondering, did I pray wrong? Did God even hear me? Why would he say no when I needed that so badly? But let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. God's no is not rejection. It's protection. It's redirection. It's divine security. It's him keeping you from something that would have looked good at first, but would have cost you more than you could afford in the long run. Sometimes you're asking for things based on what you want, and God is answering based on what you need, and the two don't always match. I can't count how many times I begged God to let something work out, only to thank him later that it didn't. Back then, I didn't understand it. I thought I was ready. I thought that relationship was the one. I thought the job was the breakthrough. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't see was what God saw. He saw the heartbreak down the line. He saw the betrayal. He saw how that door would have taken me off track. So he shut it, and it hurt. But later on, when he opened the right door, I saw the reason behind the no. You see, we think we know what's best for us, but our vision is limited. We're seeing today, maybe next week. God's seeing the next 10 years. He knows what battles are ahead. He knows what lessons you still need to learn. He knows what would damage your spirit. So sometimes he'll block it, not because he's punishing you, but because he loves you that much. You're praying for something temporary, and he's preparing something eternal. When God says no, it's not the end of your story. It's just the end of that chapter. And too many people treat a no like it's a life sentence. It's not. It's a setup for something higher. You ever been on a detour while driving? At first, it's frustrating. You wanted to take your usual route, but that detour might have saved you from an accident up ahead. That's how God's no works. It's his divine detour. It might take longer. It might not make sense, but it's always leading you to a better destination. And listen, sometimes God says no because he's building your character. He's teaching you to trust him, not just for the yes, but even in the no. Anybody can have faith when things are going their way, but real faith shows up when you hear no and keep walking anyway. Real faith is when you praise him even while you're confused. When you trust his heart, even when you don't understand his hand. If you could see what God sees, you wouldn't question a single no he ever gave you. You'd drop to your knees and thank him for every door he closed, every person he removed, every plan he changed. And because you'd see how each no was pointing you to the one. Yes, that was worth it all. So the next time God says no, don't get bitter, don't shut down, don't stop praying. Stand up and say, all right, Lord, I trust you. If you blocked it, then you must be saving me from something I don't even see yet. Because if God said no, it means he's making room for something better, something safer, something stronger, and something just for you. You can't pray and worry at the same time. Choose one. That's a lesson I had to learn in real life, through real struggle, because I used to do both. I'd hit my knees, talk to God, pour out my heart, cry even. And then the moment I got back up, I'd start pacing the floor, stressing, doubting, running through worst-case scenarios in my head. Sound familiar? A lot of us are doing that. We're praying like we trust God, but living like we don't. And let me tell you, that's not faith. That's anxiety in a disguise. Now, don't get me wrong. Life is tough. There are bills to pay, mouths to feed, dreams to chase, people depending on you. It's hard not to worry. I get that. But prayer was never meant to be a ritual. It's a transfer. When you pray, you're supposed to hand over your burden. You're saying, God, this is too heavy for me. I need you to carry it. But what most people do is hand it over in prayer and then snatch it right back with worry. That's like asking a mechanic to fix your car and then staying in the garage all night hovering over him. You gotta let go and let God do what only God can do. Worry don't change anything. It never has and it never will. It won't fix the problem. It won't speed up the process. All it does is steal your peace, your sleep, and your joy. And here's the crazy part. Most of the stuff we worry about never even happened. We're stressing over things that aren't even real yet. Just ideas, just fears. And while we're busy trying to control everything, God is waiting on us to trust Him with anything. I've been in places where the pressure was real. I'm talking about lights getting turned off, money running out, nobody calling back, dreams looking like they were dying. And in those moments, I had to make a choice. Was I going to keep carrying the weight, or was I going to release it through faith? Was I going to panic, or was I going to pray? I chose prayer, but not just any kind of prayer. The kind that lets go, the kind that says, God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you will. So I'm done worrying about it. That kind of prayer will free you. It'll shift your whole spirit. You'll start walking different, talking different, living different. People will look at you like, how are you so calm? And you'll say, because I gave it to God and I trust Him more than I trust the storm. You see, worry is based on the belief that things are out of control. But faith is knowing they're in God's hands, even when you can't see what He's doing. And once you've truly given something to God, you stop checking the clock, you stop biting your nails, you stop losing sleep because you know He's never late and He's never wrong. If you're gonna pray, really pray. Don't just go through the motions. Mean it, surrender, release it, and then walk away from the problem with peace. That's how you know your faith is active. When your soul is calm, even when your circumstances are not. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about trusting a bigger reality. God is still in control. So decide today, are you going to keep praying and worrying? Or are you going to pick one and stand on it? Because if your trust is real, your worry should disappear. And if you choose prayer over panic, faith over fear, I promise you, peace is going to follow. Your breakthrough is tied to your belief, not your background. That right there, that'll change your life if you let it. Because too many people are walking around thinking they're disqualified. Because when belief leads the way, breakthrough always follows.